We'll call to order the regular meeting of the school board for Monday, April 27th, 2026. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and invite you to stand as you're able. One A, the reading of our school board meeting norms. Mr. Larson.
Number 1, be prepared. Number 2, be on time. 3, value and respect each other. 4, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation. 5, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public. 6, speak up when the norms are not being followed. And 7, advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Item 2, the approval of tonight's agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda as outlined in your board packet.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Clevin. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Manley. Any additions, corrections? We'll take a roll call vote.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lunn?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Item 3, celebrating success. We have classified and certified employees of the third quarter. Start briefly, Dr. Brenner, and then I believe Mr. King is here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first one is the classified employee of the quarter, Spencer Anderson, who works in the technology department. He's not able to be here tonight, but Darren King has a few words to say on Spencer's behalf and will accept his award on his behalf. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Dr. Brenner, President Berger, members of the board. Like Dr. Brenner said, Spencer just couldn't be here tonight, which is unfortunate, because if there's a guy that needs a little bit of a FaceTime and credit for what he does, it's Spencer. Spencer is one of those really, really smart guys. In 35 years, I've worked with lots of really smart people, and he is definitely one of a really elite group of technical minds that can really dig in and figure things out. On top of that, I think the things that I value when I look at it as part of an organization, he's willing to help and share and collaborate. He's willing to mentor. He just has all those other skills that make him just a super valuable person in our district. Just to give you an idea, I mean, these 2 buildings we've opened up, he was involved on that in the home stretch of each of those buildings. Everything from fire panels, telephones, wireless network, wired networks. He was a key pivotal player in that. So well deserved, and thanks on behalf of him. Thanks for the recognition. It's a little weird doing this. I'm not sure exactly how to do it. But.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the certified employee of the third quarter. This will be Dr. Brenner and Mr. Thorvaldson, and we'll go from there.
And Tracy Nelson, special education teacher at Lake Agassiz Elementary School, who is also retiring this year, is our certified person of the quarter. And Mr. Travis Thorvaldson, principal at Lake Agassiz, has a few words to recognize Tracy.
Well, Dr. Brenner, President Berger, and members of the Grand Forks School Board, on behalf of our school, along with Mr. Ryan Voss and Amelia Hodgson, it is really an honor to present to you the certified employee of the quarter, Lake Agassiz special education teacher, Mrs. Tracy Nelson. Boy, I really do speak for all of us when I say how happy we are for this selection and how proud of you we are. I just have a few prepared remarks so I don't get too off track. Tracy's service to our profession is second to none. It has been fueled and inspired by this passion and this just absolutely never-ending belief in every single kid. I, quite frankly, have been struck by just her persistence and her perseverance and her no-quit mindset. She truly believes in every single kid and lives out that calling day in and day out. She makes all students feel supported, helps them find all different types of success, and just continually builds up their confidence and their belief in themselves She is an absolute master at just pushing all the right buttons, knowing exactly what these children need, both academically, socially, or emotionally. Tracy is just a difference maker, especially her impact on our school's culture, how that place works. The manner in which she leads, collaborates, works with the people around her just sets a tone. And her influence really changes the people around her. She has so many just immeasurable intangibles. Her work ethic, second to none. Her ability to work with everyone is just unmatched. Just a magnetic presence that motivates everybody around you to just work as hard as you do. I want to just share a couple things that people said during their nomination. One of them was just how relentless she is with her guidance and her encouragement to all children, and how much her children grow year in and year out because she demands that they work towards independence. There's one longer story, I'll do the brief one, but it talked about a student that was in a classroom next door to Tracy's classroom. And this was not a student on her caseload. It was just a kid that knew Tracy in the hallway. And when this child would have a difficult day or would need a little pep talk, he would ask to go see Mrs. Nelson. And sometimes if she wasn't there or wasn't readily available, the staff around this young child would say, well, we'll tell Mrs. Nelson that you say hi. And that was just enough to get him to turn his day around. And this was not a child on her caseload, just a general ed kid that got to know somebody that he trusted and cared about. Michelle Shockey shared a story in our presentation at our school that I think also just speaks volumes about Tracy. Michelle said one of the things she learned from Tracy was how to have difficult but important and meaningful conversations. She said she'd never shy away from going face to face with somebody to talk about those important things, even if there was a disagreement. She said you always knew you'd come out on the other end of that conversation feeling loved and respected by Tracy. And isn't that what the world needs more than anything right now? And then, of course, every single nomination had something about how kind she was and how much she cared. So I'll close with this. Just that legacy that you are going to leave behind will last an absolute lifetime. Thank you for representing our profession with such honor and such dignity. You've done it well throughout your entire career. And man, it has been an honor to work alongside of you. Congratulations.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to say anything, but I think I have to since my family's also here to cheer me on. I have had a great go with Grand Forks Public Schools, starting out as a para, which I think really helped me the most in seeing how other people feel and being able to work with paras and other people. So that was for 3 years, and then I see Sherry Hodek over there smiling. I was at Thompson I did my resident teacher program there and then got hired on through the Grand Forks Public Schools in Thompson, and I was there, I think, a total of 12 years. And then I moved to Lake Agassiz, and that's where I've been since. I have met so many wonderful, wonderful people, the administration, different people that I've worked with throughout all of those, and I just can't say enough about what everybody does for kids, and I'm honored, definitely honored to accept this award. Thank you very much.
Dr. Hodak?
Tracy, congratulations. I can't believe date myself, not you, 25 some years, but I will tell you, everything that Mr. Thorfelson said about her is absolutely true. She was young and she was excited and energetic. She could confront parents, she could confront teachers and support. She developed solutions. She was very tough. And so it was Grand Forks' best when they brought her in and Thompson's loss. But Tracy, congratulations. You've done one hell of a job.
Thank you, Dr. Hodak. We'll move on to item 4, our public comment period. I don't have any public comment forms turned in. Is there anyone here at the meeting tonight who wishes to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting? Seeing and recognizing none, we'll move on to item 5. Items under 5 are for discussion. We have one this evening, 5A, the bid process for sale of Building Trades 2025-2026 Project House. Mr. Bombach, and then I believe Mr. Ripley might participate as well.
Yes, thank you. Board Member Berger, board members, the process has changed just slightly as the new construction trades house is being constructed just outside of the Career Impact Academy. You may have taken notice. So we needed to approach just what this program will look like. And so here I will welcome up the talented Mr. Ripley to kind of take us through what those changes are.
Good evening, President Berger, members of the board. As Brandon articulated and also in the cover memo, explained a little bit of the historical part of our building trades program. And I think looking back through the records, what might not be as well known is we've been constructing houses in Grand Forks for a very, very long time. And well before my tenure within Grand Forks Public Schools, it actually was very common for us. We were building them, Gary Perper at that time, the instructor, in the parking lot at Red River High School. But for the last 24 years, we've been building them out in the community. We've been buying a residential lot, building the house on site, selling the lot and the house upon completion, and moving on to the next residential lot. With the construction of the Career Impact Academy and the relocation of our building trades classroom to that location specifically for upper class students, it made sense for us to bring the project back to being built on site, and for a variety of reasons I've outlined in the memo: proximity to the school building, access for resources, materials, because it's adjacent to the building trades lab. But a big part of it also is visibility. That's visibility for those that are traveling Gateway or 42nd. A lot of times we'd get questions about, you're still doing that project? Because if you didn't live in the residential neighborhood, you really had no reason to know that that wasn't being constructed by just, a regular developer in town, but built by students. And the last one was accessibility. When you're building out in a residential area, it is on the students themselves to get to that location, and that at times was a barrier for student accessibility. And so, again, being that project is located at the Career Impact Academy, having that where transportation is being provided, whether students are driving themselves or being bused in, provides that important program capstone to everybody. So for a variety of reasons, we brought that back. But I think it does also then change the way that we want to sell that house because we don't have a lot attached to it. The house does have to be moved. And so there's some other parameters in place. And in working with our other CT directors around the state, a sealed bid process seems to be the right way to go in terms of the process that we want to utilize. And a timeline that's articulated for you within that memo, having a period of time where prospective buyers could reach out and do a walkthrough through the house. And then also an end date of when that house needs to be moved, because we obviously want to start next year's house with the start of next school year. So with that, the memo does a nice job of kind of outlining the process, but certainly ready to stand for any questions that the board may have regarding it.
Questions from board members for Mr. Ripley or Mr. Bombach regarding this bid process? Mr. Clevin?
Thank you. You mentioned a minimum bid.
Yes, sir.
How do you derive that, and will that be publicized in the advertisement?
So President Berger, Board Member Clevin, certainly we want to make sure that we're not upside down on the process of the sale of the house. In the past, when we use a realtor, would do a fair market analysis of comparable size and build of house and location in town. That's how we establish the rate of the house. In this case, I think the minimum bid has to be at least the level of the materials that have been put into the construction of the house itself. And again, I think that needs to be upfront and publicized as part of the bid process. And I'll let maybe Mr. Bombach speak to that inclusion as well.
Sure. Thank you, board members. It's exactly that. It's expense driven. The first time going through it, we want to make sure, as Mr. Ripley said, that we're not upside down on it, and it's a process we can replicate going forward. Haven't pulled the numbers yet to do that analysis, and not until the project's complete, but then we'll do that.
Thank you.
Any others? Ms. Flynn?
Is this considered a personal property sale? So like not traditional financing for a house essentially, right? Because it's not affixed to anything, so it's personal property?
Yeah, Board Member Flynn, that makes sense to me the way you're describing it. I haven't pulled that definition in my head yet, but I think you're exactly right.
So with that being said, would there be a contract that our attorney would draft in terms of after we get the sale, how the exchange happens of personal property, or who would be responsible for transferring that? Because there's no deed for this house. It's just
Correct.
Yep, that'd be exactly the route we would go. And again, here for discussion, so assuming that there's agreement in this direction, we have a meeting set up with Laura on that subject.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have more, Ms. Flynn, before we? Okay. Other board members? I have just one, just a clarifying question, because it's the first time we've had this situation in front of us. What's the contingency if there isn't a bid that meets the minimum, the next course offering in the fall? Is there enough? I've not been out there to see. What would or could that do as an impact to the courses we offer for the following program year?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think the same question would come up with our previous process of building houses on site. What happens if we don't find a prospective buyer and we hang on to those houses? I have indicated before, we're not in the business of just building houses and sitting on them. So I think obviously there would need to be a shift. We're just not going to be able to build houses and just have them, sit unoccupied. And at the same time, I can tell you that we've had a number of individuals that have reached out, expressed interest to it. Again, I think the important part would be is to make sure that we're covering our costs and making sure that a house gets sold. But I have high confidence that that'll happen. It's a high quality product that the students have put together.
I had no doubt. I just asked the question anyway.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Ripley. Others, Mr. Clevin?
Probably is self-evident, but costs would include any legal time to write up contracts and things of that nature. So just an advisement note for those people who've set that minimum price. Thanks.
And just for the record, because some people are watching online, there were head nods in response to that. We didn't hear Mr. Bombach or Mr. Ripley say yes to your question, but yes was the implied answer. Thank you, Mr. Clevin. Others? Just a reminder, this is an item for discussion this evening. Of course, we'll see and learn more at other parts of the process, but for this evening, anything else from board members? Any final thoughts from you, Mr. Ripley and Mr. Bombach, on this agenda item?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to have discussion. Certainly, if any of the board members would love to walk through, come out to the Current Pact Academy sometime. And it's fun to see the students in work and applying their skills to put, again, this house construction project. So, but thank you for the opportunity to be on the agenda tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bombach, anything else from you on this? Yeah. As you're moving, Mr. Ripley, I was just thinking how neat and interesting it would be to have students as a part of the walkthrough. We've moved on, but we haven't. You're still at the podium, but that's really the point, right, is to have them demonstrate their work and their learning. If you want to speak to that, just briefly.
No, it's one of when we've done the residential house in the past, one of the times the students get the most proud of is bringing their parents in. And showcasing that. And so, again, not too often you get to say, at some point, of course, in this situation, it's a little different, not knowing where this prospective house might end up landing, but to be able to drive by something, years on and saying, I had a hand in constructing that house. And there are neighborhoods in this Grand Forks community where a number of houses on individual blocks have been built by the Grand Forks Public Schools. And so, anyway, it's a great point. We are anticipating, according to the timeline, to do it once the school year is done, because it allows us to understand what are the entire costs that are in there, how complete is everything within the house. And at the end of the day, it still is an instructional classroom, and so the interruptions of doing walkthroughs lend themselves well when there's not students there. But I get your point, and again, students take great pride in what they put together.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to 6. These are recommendations for action. 6A is our consent agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined in your packet. It's been moved by Mr. Manley and a second by Ms. Flynn. We'll take a roll call vote.
Lund? Yes. Palmasino? Yes. Flynn? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6B, consideration of acceptance of equipment donation. Mr. Bombach and then perhaps others. We'll see.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Berger, members of the board. I'll just do the quick technical introduction of this because there's a little bit more celebration to be involved here. But there's a donation in being made to the school district by Impressions, Gifts, and Creative Services. Incredibly generous, and so generous that when it meets certain thresholds, there's different approvals that need to be taking place according to our board policy, HDDBR, and says that, for any gift to be given to a school building, the principal needs to weigh in on that, and we have the principal's approval and acceptance of this. Anything more than $5,000 of value, then it would need my recommendation for approval, and you have that. And the last one is board acceptance of the donation, should it be greater than $10,000 in value. So to take you through that celebration piece, again, I'll welcome up Mr. Ripley.
President Berger and members of the board, very, very excited to be back at the podium tonight. We got contacted by an industry partner in our Grand Forks community, Impressions, Gifts, and Creative Services, about some equipment that they thought might be useful and valuable to our graphic design program. And I said, well, let me get a better description of what you're talking about here. And they sent photos and they sent the package, and I was honestly blown away with what they were considering. And so I'd reached out to our graphic design instructor, current instructor, Dr. Cynthia Boehm, and had just asked about that, and it got a very similar response, and was just elated with the concept of being able to bring in such high-level resources into the classroom. And so tonight we have Chris and Sam McAdee with Creative Impressions, Gifts, and Creative Services, and speak maybe a little bit to their interest in wanting to donate the equipment. But at the very end of the day, I just would like to say I appreciate partners that are willing to invest in our programs, invest in our students. And so, Chris, I appreciate being here. Any comments that you want to provide?
Hi, good evening. Thanks for accepting the donation. My wife and I and my brother, who also helps with the business, just thought this would be a great opportunity to give back. I'm a product of Grand Forks Public Schools, went to Central High School, loved every moment of it. I felt my art classes, my design classes, my AutoCAD classes, all of those arts, it's really where students, I think, get to have the most growth. They get to explore the most, as opposed to your core classes where you're learning on as a given facts back that you've learned. But they really get you to explore. They really inspire you to what you want to do when you grow up. And art was something I always knew I wanted to do. I was finally fortunate enough to start my own business in that field. I've worked a lot with the public schools, and I'm very grateful that they choose to do business with me, the various high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and I'm a firm believer of keeping it local. And that's not only something I ask of my patrons to keeping it local, but something I ask of myself as well, making sure that whatever I can do locally, I feel is the best impact that we can make, making our community stronger. If that means you have the means of writing a big check, so be it. We are in the situation where we had some wonderful equipment that was fairly new, that we no longer had a use for. And so we thought, well, what better what better way to give back? And we're very blessed and proud to have that opportunity to do that. So thanks again for all the work that you've been sending my way, and I'll continue to do what I can to support the school and the future. Despite AI, I believe there always will need to be a human brain behind design and artwork. And I can prove that because my customers send me some pretty rough AI driven artwork that I fix. So there's always going to need that human touch, and I'm just hoping that I can inspire at least a few students out there that really gravitate towards the same industry I'm in, the way I was inspired. And then thank you it was very easy working with Mr. Ripley on this, getting the process started. And yeah, I appreciate, and I do appreciate everything this board does and the school district does for our youth. And I hope we have a continued partnership.
Thank you.
Sam, anything? All right, I guess Chris said it all. So anyway, with that, certainly stand for any questions. And again, appreciate investments in our schools and our programs and our students. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you for those remarks and for this opportunity. Questions from board members? Dr. Hodak.
First of all, thank you very much for that. Have you discussed with Eric the upkeep and the maintenance of this, or what it's going to increase in our demand for supplies or things like that, as well as if you could answer for sure which course and what are the plans for it? Thank you.
Yeah, a board member, Hodak, Dr. Hodak, I certainly can speak towards some of that. That was what was appealing for us, was the fact that, first of all, it's a 6-head screen printing machine, which when Chris was in the classroom underneath the instruction of Mr. Joe Ford, they used probably a much antiquated system of that same exact model, but it is something that was currently being utilized. This is just a much better resource than what the students are able to currently utilize. But he also talked a little bit about the fact that since it's local, his willingness, and again, maybe I shouldn't speak for him, but to come and help train and serve as a resource and be part of the program advisory. And specifically, this would be a graphic design program, graphic design 1 and 2 at Central High School, which is where the location of our program is. But Chris, you want to talk a little bit about the supplies and upkeep of this type of equipment and partnership beyond just tonight's donation?
Yeah, so first of all, I guess I'm not even sure if all of you know what exactly it encompasses, but it is the 6-head printing machine, but it also comes with absolutely everything that you're going to need to make a custom screen printed shirt, from the flash heater, the washout bay, the screens, the films, the printer, everything required. Ongoing maintenance, there's really not a whole lot of maintenance aside from keeping it clean, keeping it organized. Your inks are going to be your biggest expense that you'd have to rotate through, which is obvious of any equipment. You're going to have those kinds of additional costs. I don't really see them needing anything, especially right off the bat. Machine-wise anyways, to get started. And my brother and I are also very willing and happy to help. I assume they're going to need help setting it up, walking through everything at least a few times to get a feel for it. And that's something we're certainly willing and very much looking forward to doing. Is helping out with any kind of education, any ongoing questions they might have. It's not so much here's a big machine and you take it and we're done. We did our part. It really is something I would love to still be a part of and help out with. So anything that acquiring that stuff, finding vendors, anything like that, we can certainly work with you, and we'll do our best to make sure that you're set up for success. But it is quite the setup. as like you said, from the Mr. Ford days, it is, it's not hand-built, and it is, but it's a great machine, so I hope that.
And do we have the space?
We do. Dr. Hudak, we did have to move a couple pieces of antiquated equipment that were not being utilized to make the space, but we have made the space, yes.
Other questions from board members? Dr. Lund and then Ms. Flynn.
I was just going to share, I had the opportunity to travel with Mr. Ripley to some of the Career Impact Academy around the U.S. to just kind of get a feel of their programs. And a wide variety of them had examples of interdisciplinary collaboration. For example, students in the diesel mechanic program had worked with the business students to have oil changes for staff and faculty, things like that. And so the fact that you're donating a piece of equipment for the potential for students to start a business and take business away from you also, I think, means a lot to our organization. And the fact that it can just enhance a potential learning experience and then grow out of it. I was a DECA kid, so certainly understand how projects like this can be real life experience, but also tend to a project-based presentation of that sort. So thank you again. Also shout out to Central, but certainly just want to echo everyone's comments of just appreciation for the gift. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn. Dr. Lund.
Having a graphic designer in the family who fell in love with graphic design when she was in high school, not at your school, but at a different school, in Grand Forks Public Schools. I won't say the other one, but anyway, she's gone on to have a very successful career. But that's where she learned her love, was in the high school. So thank you for all of us. And I would make a motion that we approve the donation as outlined.
So there is a motion on the floor to accept the donation of a full 6-head screen printing setup to the graphic design program at Grand Forks Central High School. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Clevin. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Hodak,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Palmasino,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Six C, our Finance Committee report. We'll start with Mr. Palmasino.
Thank you. I was ready for the second part. I think the first part of this, we're going to have an update on the athletic scoreboards that the athletic activities director has been working on, and I believe Mike is here to give a update on it. This is, I don't think there's any action. This is mainly for discussion. So if we would just have Mike come to the podium, or are you going to handle it?
Yep, I'd be happy to answer this one, Chair Berger, Member Palmasino. Just to give a quick presentation of what was discussed, absolutely Director Biermeyer is here present, should there be any other questions. We largely wanted to give an update on what had been envisioned for a project for video boards in both gymnasia at Red River and Central, and then just a scoreboard component at Cushman Field. There's a number of different ways to approach these, and really what we wanted to articulate to the Finance Committee, and Director Biermeyer did just that, was the approach to bid this, to make sure that everybody locally, regionally, nationally are aware of the projects, and that it's an opportunity for everybody to respond. One thing that we wanted to be upfront about too is this is a sponsor-driven project. This is not in the general fund. This project would only get done should the dollars be raised, basically due to the sale of the marketing opportunities on the boards themselves. And so for that reason, we're treating this as three separate projects. They're in distinct locations, and they have a sponsorship tied to it. So theoretically, if the money's not raised, only a portion of the three, the scope of the three different boards could be completed. And there'd be more to be discussed at that point too. The plan absolutely is to raise the dollars and move forward with all three sites, but that's the reason why it's broken up into three separate bids. So the conversation was largely about that process, and Director Biermeyer has begun that process, and ultimately, of course, any bid results would come back to this body for final approval. And so happy to answer any questions myself on that, or Director Biermeyer's here as well.
Now, let's go first to other Finance Committee members. Mr. Anderson, were you at that meeting? Ms. Flynn, anything from you as a part of that conversation that you wish to share for the good of the whole? Mr. Palmasino, anything else that you want to offer on this? Mr. Biermeyer, do you have anything? We're good? Okay. So this is just in the interest of clarity, yes, this is under recommendations for action, but this portion of the Finance Committee report is for discussion only. So this is for discussion and information. Any clarifying questions? Mr. Clevin.
Thank you. Scoreboard requires the scoreboard. Power, data, various other sundry activities need to make it operable. How is the general structure of a bid being presented so that the gift giving is a defined amount?
Just want to sake of clarity there, Board Member Clevin, just the end of that question. Just, can you say that one more time?
Well, I'll rephrase it. I'm kind of trying to draw analogies to a regular old project bid on behalf of the Grand Forks Public School District. There's plans, specifications, this, that, or the other, so people know what the end goal should be, so they can provide an accurate price to do the end goal. Is there a similar delivery of plans and specs for this?
Yeah, I can answer that, and I might have to call Director Biermeyer up because he helped kind of put the specifications document together. We'll advertise specifications, but it's request for, make sure I get my right terminology here, call for bids. Well, we are largely pointing out through what we can, just the board's location, where they're currently at, and what our desires are, and we're looking for proposals back on those projects. It's not going to be probably to the degree of what you would put out as an engineer and call for, but we're putting out the case for the need and hoping to get exactly that information back with a little more detail than what I'm giving it credit for.
Mr. Biermeyer, anything to add to Board Member Clevin's question?
Yes, Mr. Clevin. So when we put this out there, the general concept is I have a pretty good idea of the size of the scoreboards that we want, what the video boards would look like. So we put those specs into that RFP. But from there, I want to hear what the companies also have to bring with their ideas of, the different bells and whistles that could be involved in it. But there's also an educational component to this, the curriculum piece. I think that's a big part of that, where I'm asking those companies, what does your curriculum look like? So it isn't just the scoreboards that we see generally, that we've seen for 30 years, and it isn't just the video boards that we are now starting to see in different places. So I left it open for their interpretation also, because I'm really interested in what they have to bring forward, instead of pigeonholing to what just Mike Biermeyer thinks.
Follow up, Mr. Clevin? Just asking if you had anything to clarify to either of those. Oh, Dr. Lund.
Just a silly question, because I know you guys will have this covered, but you have 3 separate bids. From an equity standpoint, I don't think we can accept 1 or 2. We would have to accept all 3 because we're dealing with different schools.
I do see the Cushman Field being very separate. And with the different buildings and the different structure, the 3 bids I felt was pretty important. I can give you an example of another district in the state that was a similar situation with more than 1 school, and 1 school had enough money, 1 was a little bit short. What they did was they didn't come up with more resources, but what they did is they came up with more of maybe some connections, and the district and the athletic department can maybe come up with some more connections to help that school that may not be at the tipping point.
Dr. Lund, one more.
I mean, the unwritten comment here is it'd be very difficult for the board to accept 1 school and reject another school. That would put us in a very difficult position. I don't see a board doing that.
Mr. Baumbach?
If I may comment too, I think equity is always a lens of importance. Again, we don't know how all the sponsorship goal will go and even the response to the bidding process. So I would say at this point, we're hopeful. And if we come up short of that goal, then we're going to bring it back to you for that decision.
Anything else, Mr. Clevin?
Yeah.
And then I'll come to Ms. Flynn. Yeah.
And because we're not like committing school district finances here, have we looked at this, because it's basically a philanthropy sort of process, if you will, have we vetted bidding and procurement law on this? Because it's different than bidding our resources, but nonetheless, it could still possibly be construed as a capital project on behalf of the school district. And I think we should make sure we're clear of any century code issues.
Mr. Baumbach?
Yeah, happy to comment on that. We dug into this. We want to be deliberate in following the law. Any dollar that does come to the school district and we're the custodian of is a public dollar. And so we are in compliance with the North Dakota Century Code. There's a nuance of just when you enter the bidding thresholds. We know if we put out for services or really anything north of $50,000, you're going to be required to follow a set of rules. If a project exceeds $250,000, then you follow another set of rules. And that's where truly these projects are distinctive of one another, and we're following a process according to that.
Ms. Flynn, did you have something?
Yeah, so we talked about at the Finance Committee meeting, the willingness of Mr. Biermeyer to get sponsorships and go out, and he secured some. And I appreciated his efforts to really get that full amount before coming back to the board with, a recommendation or buying it. For clarity's sake, if we get all of the sponsorships at sort of what you're estimated this might cost, but then the bids come back and the project's higher, then what do we do? Will the ask be that we're still moving forward upon your recommendation and the board's just going to chip in a little bit more from the general fund, or what are your thoughts? If the bids exceed what you've secured for finances, is that something you're even willing to bring back?
100% of this will still come from public funding. I'm sorry, from private funding, not our dollars. So if for some reason my estimation of the bidding projects right now, based on what some other districts have done with very similar projects in the tri-state area, we will readjust with our businesses. But I won't come back and say, well, I might be $50,000 short. Can the school help me out? We won't move forward until it's 100% funded.
Other questions from board members? Mr. Palmasino?
Yeah, the other comment that Mike mentioned is that we would also include the signs out front of both schools. He is incorporating that within the sponsorship, that you could have a dual sponsorship, so we can have more than one sponsor on our signs that should have 5. So he's been working on that, and I believe you have one already sold and working towards others. So
that's correct.
thank you.
Like the commercials say, bundle and save. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you for that note. Others, I thought I saw one more over here on 6C1. Anything else on the athletic scoreboards update? Reminder, even though this is under 6 on our agenda, there's no action required on this point of the Finance Committee report. Looks like that's enough for tonight. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 6C2, consideration of bids for parking lot resurfacing at Schrader Middle School and Wilder Elementary School. Mr. Palmasino.
Yes, they have set out bids, and if you look on your information, the last page has the bid totals that have come in, but we are administrative and committee recommendations, what we would like to move forward with the parking lot bids at Schrader Middle School and at Wilder, north end of Wilder, for $107,340.30 for Strata Corporation, and the Knight River Company has come together. So that's your low bid of that, and we recommend that we would approve that. If you've driven by Schrader Middle School lately, it is starting to look a lot like the Columbia Mall. So I think it's time that we have to do a lot of work on that project. So
Thank you. Others on the Finance Committee, Ms. Flynn, Mr. Anderson, anything to add? Ms. Flynn?
I would just comment, it's one thing to drive by Schrader, it's another to drive
In the Schrader.
in on the blacktop every day.
Mr. Bombach, anything to add?
No, just to highlight, I mean, we followed our bidding requirements, just like articulated with Century Code, have published it for 10 days, received, I would say, happy with the bid results of just the number and the interest. A component of this too is going to restructure that Schrader parking lot so that the runoff is correctly taken care of and getting a little more life out of it versus where it's pooled over these recent years and caused so much damage.
Thank you. I know we can see in our packet the timeline, the lowest responsible bidder that's recommended is a 5-day timeline. Any sense of when in the summertime, or are we too soon for that? Does that happen after the bid is accepted? Do we just have any sense of when it might be completed?
Sure. Chair Berger, I would say, I don't have it off the top of my head, but the elements we're looking at is there's a project on the east side of Schrader that we need to be aware of when they lift the cooling unit up on the roof, so we want to avoid that time frame, any school activities, et cetera. I don't recall the exact time frame, but seeing as how the project is only 5 days, we're going to be able to conveniently hit the sweet spot.
Any other questions from board members related to 6C2? Mr. Palmesino?
Just one thing, it is coming out of the building fund, so we make sure we know that.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions or comments from board members? Dr. Lund? We have a motion on the floor to recommend or to accept Knife River's bid in the amount of $107,340.30. Is there a second? Second. A second by Mr. Larson. Any further discussion?
Just one point.
One note, Mr. Baumbach?
To Bill's comment there, that could the action include the approval to be expensed against the building fund?
Yes.
So there's a question and I need a board member's amendment to the motion since it's on the floor and it's been seconded, but I would invite a motion to, or an amendment to the motion to add that these funds are to be expended from the building fund.
Yes, I agree with that.
So this was.
I move that we add that it comes from the building fund.
Yes, I understand this, Dr. Lund. It was your original motion. Are you amending? Are you
Yes.
moving an amendment? Okay. So do we need a second and a vote on the amendment, Cindy? Okay.
I'll second the amendment.
All right. So this might have been just me stating the motion in the memo and not what was actually intended, but we do have a second on the amendment from Mr. Clevin. We'll take a roll call vote on that.
Palmesino?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
The amendment to the motion passes. So now, with no other discussion, we have a motion and a second amended that we accept this bid in the amount of $107,340.30 and to expense that from our building fund. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Flynn?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Palmesino?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to 6D, General Fund Financial Statement. Mr. Baumbach.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. For the first 9 months, this report reflects the financials. Total general fund revenues were nearing $103 million and the expenditures at $86.7 million, netting the results of revenues over expenditures of $15.8 million. First report always compares the actuals against the budget through that same time period, through March 31st. You can see the local sources have started to come in here in the spring as tax dollars have come in, and the expenditures continue to accumulate. So total revenues were nearing 80% of the budget anticipated, and expenditures at 64% of the budget. On to, or a little bit later in that first report, looking at that other expenses, our supply lines and different discretionary lines we've been working hard on to keep lower than prior years. And at this point in the year, we've passed a significant deadline of April 1st, where we can no longer order from out of town or get purchase orders put in from out of town vendors, which helps further control some of those expenses. So we're on a good path there. For the second report, that comparative report, is this where we at this point in the year compared to the prior year? One thing I'll note just on that first sheet is that local sources are lagging. It shows nearing $300,000 from the year prior. And a big part of that is the primary residence credit has yet to come in, and we contacted the county and not seeing that. Last year it was reflected in the March statement, and this year it'll be the April statement. They received it on April 15, and so we've gotten, or that'll be coming in shortly. So that's one thing to explain that one. And then on the federal sources, just to point out, that's a 10% reduction, but that's also because we budgeted fewer expenditures within that revenue side, or within the federal bucket, so there's going to be fewer revenue to match the expenditures. So that's 10% from the year over year, but I looked at it, and according to our own budget, last year at this point, we were 42% of those revenues, and this year at this point, we're 42% of our projected revenue. So that's actually a little bit closer than what we'd anticipate just by face value of it. Happy to answer these questions, but as you can see, the graphical depiction shows us where we're at with our revenues as compared to the prior 2 years. Expenditures just the same, coming together for that general fund balance. You can see that last bar chart included. Again, happy to answer those questions, but the administrative recommendation is the routine to approve the general fund financial statement for the period of July 1, 25 through March 31st, 2026.
Questions from Mr. Baumbach? Dr. Hodak?
Yeah, just to talk a little bit about the federal sources at 42%. I imagine that's what you were referring to. Do you see any issue where we're not going to get all of it?
Thank you. Chair, Board Member Hodak, no. And like I said, when I compare it to last year, it's in the exact same spot from what we budget and anticipate, and then what we've actually received at that point. We have a number of federal grants. The federal fiscal year is a little bit different than ours too, and there's just this delay. We spend the money first and we seek the reimbursement. So what is budgeted here is reflective of what the feds had allocated to us, and it's our full anticipation to bring those in. The only thing that can even change that is if we set a budget where we're going to hire, a position, a para, and we can not find a para and we don't, then we become eligible to carry those funds over for one more year and make the most of them. So there's things like that could take place. The bigger picture is we're eyeing what future allocations are coming or not coming, but at this point in the year, we know what we'd receive on this fiscal year.
Okay. And the other, just to discuss a little bit, but I noticed in our legal services that we had budgeted $165,000 and we've only spent, I think, $53,000 at actual cost. And then when I look back to 24, 25, have we got all our bills in for all the legal services that we've done this year? Is this going to be a huge, or are we just waiting on those?
Yeah, a great question, Board Member Hodak. Unfortunately, I believe there's going to be a great deal of bills coming based on some recent activity of the board. We had been tracking positively compared to year prior. I was equally excited about that, but I think that it'll jump right up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, I would seek a motion to approve the general fund financial statement for the period of July 1, 2025 through March 31, 2026. Been moved by Mr. Palmasino. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Flynn. Any other further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Klevin,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Palmasino,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6E, proposed revised process for TIF and pilot tax incentives. Mr. Baumbach?
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. As you recall, on our board meeting about a month ago, March 23rd, we had talked through a suggested or drafted process. There were some some clerical types of errors within that document, and then there were bigger questions. And so I left that board meeting reaching out to our community partners, namely the city of Grand Forks, to get responses to your questions, and I've included some of these changes. In the cover memo, I've kind of grouped them into what the nature of those questions were. And so I'll kind of run through those to get everybody up to speed on that process. So the first of those being, what kind of assurances are we provided when it comes to the lead time for the school district to consider? Of course, the legal requirement is when the city takes that action to adopt the tax incentive, there's a very specific 1 month or 4 week window that you need to respond by, and if you don't, then you would, agree to the incentive, if not explicitly. So the question was more about this mention of a 2 weeks. When the group comes together, it'd be roughly 2 weeks or approximately 2 weeks before that action is taken, setting forth the 1 month to trail. I asked the question of Todd Phelan at the city, and he said, it's exactly that kind of commitment they're providing, but they're not going to be able to probably nail down exactly a 2 week window. That's why he continued to use the word approximately 2 weeks prior to. So that's what's embodied in this document. There was cleanup related to the number of meetings. I think the original iteration of the concept was a meeting of combined taxing entities, city, county, and school, and take place over 2 separate meetings, as in they would first hear the project as a group and then come back together for a second meeting to approve the project or consider the project approval. A second meeting doing that together. That's been clarified. I heard from you as board members to say we'd request or be most comfortable with hearing the project scope as a group, but then we will do our own work to consider what to do with that application at a school board meeting. And so that's what's embodied here, clarified just the one meeting as a conjoined meeting. A broader timeline and suggested process that actually relates closely to that lead time question, the 4 weeks on top of the 2 weeks. And then clarity relating to the public comment, about 5 minutes per speaker, has been worked into that step 2, describing that conjoint meeting. Those were the takeaways I had taken from the meeting and brought back, and so you see this draft is working to incorporate those, and so up to you for your consideration on this document. There's administrative recommendation to approve this approach based on what conversation we had on March 23rd, or what I thought I heard, but happy to stand for any questions.
Questions, comments from board members? Dr. Hodak?
I have several on this. First of all, overall, what is this document? Is it a document that Dr. Brenner or Brandon will be signing? Is it a memo of understanding? Is it an intent for an agreement and such? Because I think the question that has come to me would be that this is really the city's process, and the city, what they would be doing, and that we're just saying, yeah, that's good, we'll abide by or try to follow. But I am concerned that if this could be something that is written that could legally become binding to us, I think that I would be recommending that we include a disclaimer explicitly stating that the document does not create any legally enforceable rights or obligations based on the school district's part.
Mr. Baumbach?
Thank you, Chair Berger, Member Hodak. I do not see this as legally binding, and certainly a comment or a sentence to that effect would be appropriate. The way I've seen this is really quite informal. It's more of an agreement to a process, your process, and what you'd like to participate in. This joint meeting would be like any other school board meeting. It would require proper notice. So whether you decided to participate in a joint meeting to receive the presentation of the application in among your peers, or you said, no, you got to come to our meeting, functionally, it's the same meeting in my mind. This is a meeting of the school board. adjacent to those other public bodies operating their business. And so this is an informal agreement of saying, we would agree to receive that scope of work that way and not legally binding. So I too, additionally comforted by such a sentence.
Go ahead, Dr. Hodak.
So that would be one that I think that we should put in, either that or have, that's why I was asking about our legal services. I was thinking, well, now it's time to put this in with our legal services to make sure that there isn't something, the wording, because it's the wording that can make it binding as well. I found it interesting that they went to that fee of $10,000 and from that $2,500. And so I wanted to know if they were going to invest that $10,000 for a year, and would we receive some funding back on that as well. I do think that the timelines remain a little bit ambiguous to that. On the, I'll say the second page, and I might have missed this in the last time that I've looked at this and such, but the first 3 pages, or the first 3 paragraphs, they talk about combined work session. And then on that 3rd paragraph, all of a sudden it says during the combined work sessions. So I was wondering if there's something there that I have missed. I have also wanting to look at on step 3, that it says, if the city does not receive a response from the county or the school board within 30 days of the delivery of the notice from the city, the non-responding governmental entity must be treated as participating in the pilot. So that's another reason why I'm asking about legally binding or not, because I'm not certain that I saw that the last time or that I am in agreement with that. So those are my concerns.
Mr. Baumbach?
Yeah, Chair Berger, Board Member Hodak, agreed. Just to respond to those, I believe that S at the end of that would be a clerical error. I think the rest of this document is now intended to describe a single work session that the school board would be participating in. Again, it's a public school meeting that would need to be properly noticed. As it relates to legally binding century code, that's going to be the case regardless of any format and agreement. That 4-week window is what the century code says about participating in property tax incentives exceeding 5 years. And so when that action's taken by the city to notice, that's what triggers that 30-day window. And should the school board not address that, then they would, by state law currently in place, be agreeing to participating in that tax incentive, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Other questions, Dr. Hodak? Okay. Other questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
Brandon, we got a comment from somebody in the public today that, and I don't know if you were CC'd it, but talked about, in the second to last paragraph on step 2, it talks about reasonable efforts will be made to consolidate project developer applications. And then in the 4th paragraph, it talks about 5 minutes per speaker will be permitted during the combined working session. And what the comment was in the letter was, if they're going to have 3 projects presented that night, a speaker shouldn't be stuck with just 5 minutes to talk about potentially 3 different projects. And I thought the point made sense to me, is that if there's a couple of different projects that are totally different projects, not related, they're going to limit a speaker to 5 minutes for however number of projects there are being presented. And it seemed to me that seemed like a reasonable concern by that public individual, and I think that should be brought to the board and probably discussed here now, but brought to the city council. Because I think if they're going to present 2 or 3 or 4 projects, and you limit the public speaker to 5 minutes, I don't think that's fair.
Mr. Baumbach?
Thank you for the observation. I'm happy to reply. I think it's completely your prerogative and exactly how you respond to that. I read the language just as you do. 5 minutes per speaker will be permitted during the combined working session. So if that's something this body is not comfortable with within the draft, please make the changes.
Dr. Lund, anything else from you?
No, I just brought it up. I'm assuming people read their letter, maybe
Ms. Flynn?
I have a couple comments, but first, Dr. Hodak asked a question of sort of like who owns this, like how is it created? It's my understanding that there was representatives from the city, the county, and the school board who had a prior conversation with each other to sort of talk about this process. And so I think that piece maybe is just missing for awareness for this board.
Yeah, happy to respond first. In full disclosure, I participated in one Zoom call to get a sense of where the entities were coming from. It was informal. We had a conversation about possibility, and as with anything else, I left the conversation saying, aside from the board table, I can't make anything happen or make any promise. It's not good governance. It's not good policy, but I would be interested to see what the city came forward with. It did seem to be the mayor and the city's initiative more than any other single taxing entity to bring this to the table. And so where I left that conversation was, we need to have plenty of time at the board table for all board members to discuss this. But I certainly was aware that this was, in conversation, or it was a possibility before we saw it in our board packet. Happy to stand for any other questions about my involvement or a characterization of that conversation, but that was
No,
my...
I appreciate that, because I think that just gives the board members, like, it wasn't an official committee appointment, so there wouldn't necessarily be a report that comes back. But it also wasn't just like the city coming and saying, you guys need to approve this document. So I just wanted to highlight that, because when I talked to the mayor about some things, he had kind of mentioned that. And so I just wanted the board to be aware that there's maybe some informal conversations. I think part of why I've been vocal at times about the tax incentive process, but I think this is an attempt for the city to try to find a solution based on feedback from the school district and the county. And so I appreciate the notion of like, hey, we're just trying to do the best that we can. It's been my understanding from either party that I've talked to, either the county or the city, that they see this as a guideline to operate together, but that we're not holding our hand. So if we have that first meeting and it becomes just a clown show, let's just say, that we have the opportunity to come back to our board and say, maybe we didn't like that, or maybe we did, and provide feedback and change the process. So it's not a policy written in stone. It's not a binding agreement. It's just sort of a initial, here we go, here's maybe a way where we can find a solution for some of the issues that maybe we were having. One being that there were times where we felt we were rushed. So to Dr. Hodak's point about the timeline, I feel like this timeline is a little bit longer and more broad than what we had before. I feel like before we just got the notice from the city, and maybe it was 30 days, maybe it was a little less, but then by the time we actually had time to schedule a meeting, and then we had the first meeting, and then sometimes it was like we only had one meeting to decide, and that was the first time we got the meeting, and if we didn't decide, our answer was yes. And then so it felt like our hands were just tied, in my opinion. So I actually think this timeline is a little better. I saw the email that Dr. Lund was referencing as well, and I wondered about that perspective, because it certainly does limit the discussion at the meetings. I will reference that there will be an individual hearing for each of the taxing entities where individuals can come, and the city itself has said that there's no time limit. So there could be an additional opportunity for someone to come, but I do think it feels rushed if there's multiple projects being presented at the same time. Someone might have feedback for 5 minutes on one. I know that creates a lot of time, but the piece that we have always continued to say is that we want more education and want more facts surrounding each project. And so I do feel that if we were to combine with the city and the county, that it would be important to allow those speakers not to have a maximum time frame, but to have a 5-minute per each project that they're speaking on. And maybe we take that individually or whatnot, but we want and are craving more education on these projects, and so taxpayer comments certainly help with the education piece. Can
I offer one thought to that before you go
Yep.
on, Ms. Flynn? I do agree with the comments from Ms. Flynn and Dr. Lund. Perhaps as this takes shape, and again, right now we're just imagining what this first work session looks like, feels like, and so some of this is to be decided down the road, but perhaps there is a mechanism in this document that does extend more of a right for citizen comment for each individual project, and at the same time says that's a separate comment card. It's during a separate part of the work session, right? So let's say we've got Project A and we have 6 comments on Project A, and we're asking citizens to say specifically, yes, I want to weigh in on Project A. The work session takes all the comments from Project A, 5 minutes or less per speaker, and then we've got discussion, as we've done at various times at this table. Then we have Project B and so on, because I wouldn't want something so generally worded so as to say there are 4 projects on the table. That means any citizen can now have 20 minutes, and now it's 20 minutes, and we have no recourse, right? But here we have all of the same guidelines for citizen comment period. It's 5 minutes per speaker, per topic, so to say, or per project. But then the chair still does have the right to enforce a boundary or to say you're getting off topic. We're not there. So that to me would be a way to meet somewhere in the middle. So I didn't mean to, I know you've still got more, and then I'll come to Mr. Clevin, but that thought has come to me at various times today. Ms. Flynn?
Sure. The only other comments I had were in that same email that Dr. Lund referenced. It had talked about, is the school board willing to take a stance on if this type of project comes forward, no, we're not seeing it, or if this amount of year comes forward, we're not seeing it. I think we talked about that. There's varying opinions on the board as to whether or not to set some guidelines. I think loosely the majority had kind of said we're willing to hear anything, but that doesn't mean that we're a hard and fast no on just like on paper. However, personally, I do think that if we have done this process and a developer does not show up to the meeting, for me, that's going to be a pretty easy no. I mean, we have come together to say, we're making this easier for all of you, so you don't have to go to 3 separate meetings, and then if you don't show up, whether that's set in stone or not, but I'm just stating that for accountability purposes, that would be important to me that they would show up. The last piece I had, I agree with Dr. Hodak. If the city increased their fee from 25 to 10,000, I would publicly like to hear from the city what that fee goes towards, how that money is being used. And, certainly we can use our legal services in any capacity or however we like, but I would appreciate their perspective on these incentives, especially if there's a differing opinion for the city attorney or the county attorney. I would appreciate having them at those meetings as well to help us navigate from our side. The last thing I want these meetings to turn into is sort of a bickering session when there's supposed to be a unifying session and an efficiency session. So I wonder if there's work between potentially the attorneys to do prior to these meetings, especially if there's some disagreement on how the projects are going to come to fruition.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn. Mr. Clevin?
I think the city public comment period is either 3 or 5 minutes. I honestly can't remember, but that'd be a question to clarify as we look at putting in writing the time period per speaker per project. If they're 3 minutes the same as we are, that becomes an easy numerical value to set. I would also like to just reflect on this new version. I think this is very accurate to what we have asked the city to do, and I think they've done a very good job of incorporating our thoughts. And we should respect the fact that this really has been collaborative. And all along, our voices have been heard, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Other thoughts from board members? I just have one question for board members, perhaps for Brandon, others who could weigh in. We've said it a number of times during this discussion. We're just seeing how this goes. This isn't, this doesn't go in our policy. What kind of document is it? With board policy, we have periodic review. We have systematic, regular calendar times where committee goes to work and brings a report back to say, we want to revisit this, or we want this change, or we'd like to discuss such and such a policy. This is maybe beyond the scope for tonight, but I just invite us all to think about, when do we check back in and say, is this working, is it not, what needs to be corrected? Who does that and how? I don't know quite where to direct this question, but is there, as we've done with a couple of other pretty intense conversations this year, we've included a mechanism that says, and we're going to revisit this at such and such a time, or in every even numbered year by this month. What could that look like, so we don't have a board with a different shape a year from now that just says, well, I don't know, this is just what we have. So how does that work with something that's not in board policy? I'll just open that question. Dr. Lund?
I think we just pick a time frame down the road. I mean, we could say, well, we're going to do 2 of these and we'll know. It's kind of like, well, we could probably watch Wayne Gretzky and in 5 minutes say this guy's going to be good, and it might take us 5 hours of watching another guy and saying he's going to be good. It varies. So I think we just arbitrarily say maybe after this second time we do this or the third time we do this, we should just have a little conversation about it.
Maybe that fits under board requests for future consideration, that we want to make sure this is on the agenda for discussion. Dr. Brenner and then Dr. Hodak.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have an agenda planner for the entire year from July 1 to June 30th. So we can put hallmark holders or placeholders throughout the year to make sure that we hit this conversation.
Dr. Hodak?
I would also anticipate that after any of these general work sessions that we'd have, that either as a whole, there is an audit or a debriefing, so that we would not wait for the second or the third one, that we could correct immediately some of the things that happened or shouldn't have happened, or that there would be a discussion that would take place. I would anticipate that we would all want that.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Mr. Clevin?
I'd also ask us to reflect why this is being revised in the first place, because we asked. And our community partners all agreed, yeah, let's work on this to make it work better for all of us. I think that same sort of working relationship would exist, and if it doesn't work for any one of the parties, we'll sit down and talk about it again, just as we've done in the past. And I trust that process ongoing, because our city works well together.
Thank you. Other thoughts, comments, questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
Not on the feedback thing.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yes, we're still discussing the proposed
Just one
revised
quick
process. Yes, go ahead.
And I think this is for the big bosses over there. In step 2, it talks about this meeting will be considered a work session, which is clearly for the city council. But it's also important for us because our rules for work sessions are different than our meeting rules. And will this be considered, will this combined meeting be considered a work session for us or a formal meeting? It's probably more important for Cindy than anybody, so because our rules are a little different.
Any response from Dr. Brenner, Mr. Bombach, or others?
It would be a work session. What we need to work around is typically we don't have public comments during a work session, so we'll have to navigate that.
Any other thoughts or questions? Mr. Manley?
In step one, it says the city shall contact and consult with the North Dakota Department of Commerce regarding the pilot incentive request. Just making sure that we'll be able to see a copy of their thoughts on this. In prior pilots, I don't think we've ever, unless it slipped through me, but I don't think I've ever seen any thoughts or rulings from North Dakota about pilot requests.
Any response to that from Mr. Baumbach, Dr. Brenner, or something to check and get back to? I just want to make sure Mr. Manley gets a response. Dr.
Yep,
Brenner?
I think Mr. Manley is accurate in that perspective, so we'll make sure we have that information.
Other thoughts or questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
You're asking us to approve this tonight.
So this is under a recommendation for action this evening.
So I'm just wondering, how do we modify the document to express our wishes about more public input? Or is that on the side or whatever, since you're asking for approval from this body tonight?
Sure, I think Mr. Baumbach spoke very well about this, that it is the board's prerogative to approve the document as written in your packet or approve the document with these changes, or to just like that we had a previous conversation to say we would like to see some additional changes. There are a number of different ways we could go. We'll go to Ms. Flynn and then Mr. Baumbach.
Just for clarity's sake, do we know how soon this process would start? Like, do we have one kind of in the pipeline, or, do we?
Mr. Baumbach might know.
Yeah, sure. Chair Board Member Flynn, happy to respond in that I think there is an anticipation of projects, and the city has been keeping administration aware of when they could be coming, but it is a little bit unclear to me, honestly, when they'll actually come. It's been talked about in the summer, the applications could be coming. So I don't know exactly, but I think when you approve this process administratively, we would start to follow this process in conjunction with those entities. So if done tonight, the next time you saw a project would be in this format of a joint session.
The reason why I asked that question is when I sought clarification directly with the mayor on something the last time around, his response to me was, I want you guys to get it right. Don't rush whatever you feel your process might be. And so to me, that felt like he's comfortable with us getting it right to where we feel comfortable. And so if we're going to sit here today and should we add this? Should we add this? Perhaps the feedback can just be taken, and, certainly I don't want things to be brought back 8 times, but it sounded like that there wasn't a rush to do something like May 1st, that there could be times. So I personally would feel comfortable with maybe taking some of the changes that we've talked about and just getting even an inch closer to maybe where a majority feels comfortable, rather than approving something tonight. But
Sure. I'm going to turn to Mr. Baumbach, because it seemed to work very well the last time around for you to take notes and thoughts and, in a sense, the broad view of the board's collective conversation. You hit those 4 highlighted points, 2 related, but kind of illustrated those in the memo. Are you comfortable characterizing this conversation? Do you have any questions from board members? Do you have a sense of what the board is looking for that could come back to the board as an action item in May?
Yeah, Chair Berger, comfortable with the suggested timeline of taking a little more time. I do have a couple of clarifying questions then. What I primarily heard, there's a number of discussion here, but what I primarily heard was a sentence related to not being legally binding, which I'd be happy to take your recommended language, or of course work with our attorney to get the right language there. But I think you did suggest some, I just didn't take it down quickly enough. There was some conversation around setting or suggesting that the speaker limit be per project or not, so I need some clarity if that's something you want to pursue or not. And then the only other main thing I captured is working through the concept of a work session or a meeting, and if that would then materialize in any changes in the document.
Board members, do you have any comments to that? Has anything been unfairly characterized? Has anything been missed? Do you feel comfortable, in a sense, with Brandon working through that? Mr. Manley?
And just that one sentence about the, getting the documents from North Dakota that we should see.
Any others? Mr. Clevin?
And I think it was, my interpretation, it was clear we want a time limit of X number of minutes per speaker per project. And the speaker can't speak concurrently on all projects at that given work session.
Thank you. Others? Ms. Flynn?
I just had two clarifications on under step 1, the second paragraph. It talks about the $10,000 development payment pays for a third-party but-for test analysis and for a financial accountability review at the 1-year mark. So stop there. I don't think we've ever seen a 1-year mark review. I would appreciate a 1-year review. So I would just question if that's the case, who gets that? When do they get that? How do they get that? And then it goes on to say after project completion. And then it says potential clawbacks or disqualification from any future tax incentives would be potential remedies per a development agreement. That sentence kind of seems out of place. I feel like it's trying to talk about something, but there's either something missing before that or in the middle or afterwards. It just kind of seems wonky. So maybe seeking clarification on that.
Which one?
The step 1, second paragraph, the last sentence.
Thank you. Others? Dr. Lund?
I'm thinking that might have come out of the Fargo fiasco where they gave TIF money away and then they turned it over. And so I'm thinking that's why that sentence is in there. But you're right, it kind of comes out of nowhere. And I think it's hard. I think it's also hard for us to try and finalize this document. Like even when we talk about the 5 minutes per speaker per thing, because we've got 2 other taxing entities that we have to work with. So I really appreciate Amber's thoughts about let's take this back and get it done right, because we may be not thinking something that the county's thinking or that the city's thinking. And even the order in which I think you gave some eloquent speak about how to do this, but that probably is going to be the city council's job to do at the meeting.
That's right. Yeah, and to be fair, and for those listening, what you hear from board member comments to Mr. Bombach, check on this, add this in, this line, that line. This is not the same as saying, and then, however Mr. Bombach puts that together is now the board's action. There would just simply not be a motion tonight. We'll see this in our board packet in May. We'll have further conversation and action. So this feels like a helpful place to be, given the conversation that we've had collectively. Mr. Bombach?
Would you be willing to consider an action to postpone the item until the next meeting?
So I want to make sure we get the action correct so that it can be on the agenda. Okay. So I would seek a motion to postpone action on the proposed revised process for TIF and pilot tax incentives until our next regularly scheduled board meeting. It's been moved by Mr. Clevin and a second by Dr. Hodek. Any discussion on postponing action? We'll take a roll call vote.
Clevin. Yes. Larson. Yes. Palmasino. Yes. Lund.
Yes.
Manley.
Yes.
Flynn. Yes. Hodak.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Berger.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6F, consideration of resolution for renewal of community high school lease for July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. Mr. Bombach.
Chair Berger, members of the board, we leased the space from the state of North Dakota for where community high school sits. This lease was last negotiated for a 5-year term, but each and every year there needs to be action taken to renew that term or to enter into another year of that entire 5-year lease. So what you have attached to your board agenda is a copy of that current lease I'm mentioning. To commence that second year of term, there needs to be a resolution per the requirements within that lease to commence that. So you have in front of you from our legal recommended resolution to commence, to make sure we have a spot for community high school where they have been for so many years. The lease itself, the term would be then for a renewal of July 1, 26 through June 30, 27. It's at the same rate as the current lease rate of $10 per square foot, covering just over 17,000 square feet, primarily office, classroom, and some workshop corridor area within the building. Total cost would be $173,700. This past year, we had taken action to expense that against the building fund as a permitted use of paying leases out of the building fund in an effort to continually put the general fund resources where we need them most. My recommended action written out here does not include to be paid from the building fund, but I would like to ask that it be included. It was a mistake of mine not to have written that out. So if, from the start, we can read that administrative recommendation to approve the resolution to renew the lease with the state of North Dakota for space used by Community High School in the North Dakota Vision Services School for the Blind building located at 500 Stanford Road from the period of July 1, 2026 to June 30, 2027, and to be paid for from the building fund.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Bombach. Questions or clarifying comments from board members? Ms. Flynn?
I have to ask, given our financial situation and some moves that we've had, especially with the Career Impact Academy, how often is it reviewed? I think Community High School is a great space. I'm not suggesting that we move it from there. I think the School for the Blind has certainly been a great partner to work with, but how often do we review that space in terms of, do we continue leasing, or do we have space within our district, this building, another high school or attachment somewhere, that we could utilize our own building instead of leasing?
Chair Berger, Board Member Flynn, it's a good question. I would say in recent history, it hasn't been a systematic review. There has been really no space to speak of, let alone the 17,000 square feet. I think it's a great request to consider that question. We just been in an environment where we haven't had that available. If that changes, which we felt a little softening of the requirement for space in the past year, so if that continues to go in that direction, I think we have to ask ourselves that question.
Other questions, comments? Ms. Flynn?
Maybe just in response to that, I would push back on, could we initiate a process where there is a systematic review of all leased spaces as part of our facilities plan in general? More purposeful annually.
Thank you. Other questions? Dr. Hodak?
I would concur. That's one of the things that I had thought that I would bring up as well, so that how do we know that Mr. Bohan is very happy with what the landlord is agreeing to do for us as such? So I would concur with that. Also, I have a question about under the landlord's obligations. They say to B, 4B, it's on the second page, to perform all required maintenances for the premises, including all janitorial services, which will be done on a daily basis. So just clarify for me, does the landlord hire the janitors and supervise them? Do we? Where does this fit in? Do we hire, evaluate, or is that on the landlord?
Yeah, fair question. Chair, board members, Member Hodak, you're reading it correctly. We do not have any hired custodians on site there. I can, I assume that they're their own employees, they're cleaning the rest of the school, et cetera, but I can just confirm that we don't pay for any employee there, so therefore we're not reviewing for hiring, firing types of decisions.
Other questions, Dr. Hodak? Other questions or comments from board members? As you see outlined in your board packet, and with Mr. Bombach's addition, the administrative recommendation is laid out for you there. I would seek a motion to approve the resolution to renew the lease with the state of North Dakota for space used by Community High School, North Dakota Vision Services School for the Blind building at 500 Stanford Road for the period of July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2027, and to pay for that expense from the building fund. The expense outlined there is $173,700. It's been moved by Mr. Larson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Manley. Is there any further discussion? Take a roll call vote.
Larson? Yes. Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
And Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6G, appointment of Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education. Dr. Brenner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a memo from me in your board packet, and I'm happy to announce that both of our candidates are here this evening, and we'll start with the Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, Mr. Chris Triggs, is being recommended for that position. So at the beginning, I'd like to inform all of you that there were a total of 9 applications for the positions of Assistant Superintendent of both elementary and secondary education. And following a thorough screening process, 5 candidates were selected for interviews, which were conducted on Friday, April 10th, 2026. The interview team consisted of the people you can see below, those 10 names. What I didn't include in the memo were there were 5 observers as well. Cindy Johnson was an observer. Bailey Audit, who is the secretary for both Mr. Bakke and Dr. Glatch. Our 2 student school board members were in the audience as observers, and Brady Olson from the GFPS president. The interview questions were intentionally developed and organized into the following themes: administration, leadership, pedagogy and instruction, communication, and data skill set, and a scoring rubric was provided to guide each interview team member's thoughts. Following the interview process, the team reached a unified recommendation in support of Mr. Chris Triggs for the position. And subsequent to those interviews on the 10th, I conducted reference checks on Mr. Triggs. The feedback received was overwhelmingly positive and consistently highlighted his strong leadership capacity, exceptional relational skills, and unwavering commitment to student learning and continuous improvement. And based on the strength of the interview process, the collective recommendation of the interview team, and the highly affirming reference checks, it's my privilege to recommend the appointment of Mr. Chris Triggs as Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education effective July 1, 2026. The proposed compensation package includes a base salary of $188,400, along with an education factor of $3,600, for a total annual compensation of $192,000 for the 2026-27 school year. And you can see the recommendation for board action is provided below.
Thank you. Questions, comments from board members?
I'm concerned that, I'm just concerned that having these 2 positions filled with our budget crunch that we're having and such. So nothing against you, Mr. Triggs or Mr. Arison, but I am just concerned about where the money's coming from. And where is that $4.4 million budget cuts coming from? Almost detailed, because we did not do anything with the 24 teaching positions, except for, I think, 2 in there, and then those 33 certified staff, or classified staff. So I'm looking for a little bit more information before I make this decision.
Dr. Brenner, and then perhaps Mr. Bombach.
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Hodak, for the question. I certainly understand the optics of refilling or filling the 2 assistant superintendent positions based on the work that we've done collectively since August 14th. We are going to realize the $4.4 million budget reduction based on the 52 minus one of the concepts that was withdrawn at one of our board meetings. I think those have been fairly well spelled out, how we're going to get to that 4.4 and how we're going to increase some revenue on top of the 4.4. And I can also share that over the last couple of weeks, Mr. Bakke has shared that with the projected enrollment at the elementary level, there's a high likelihood, in other words, almost a certainty, that we're going to reduce 7 classroom positions at the elementary level. So that's an additional savings on top of the 4.4, and that 7 may grow to 8. And then, some things that I'm not privileged to talk about publicly yet. There's a partnership that we're looking at that will help us, go well beyond the 4.4. So the 4.4 will realize the 7 or 8 classrooms at the elementary level. That's another, $650,000 to $800,000 there. The revenue that we talked about, increasing revenue, a little north of $300,000. We're confident that we're going to do well and we're going to meet that goal, and we're responsible to meet that goal. The other thing that I would say, and maybe it's not implied within the question, but I think during I know during the 5 retreats, particularly the 4 final retreats, you had heard from principals and associate principals about the value of our assistant superintendents and how they do support principals and associate principals relative to everything that happens at the building level. And I will offer that in the last 8 years, we have built a system that supports teaching and learning at the classroom level. Despite what some people might think about being top-heavy or too many instructional coaches or a chief academic officer, those are all the right systems to have in place to ensure that with HRS, high reliability schools, level 2, we have effective instruction happening at every classroom and everybody is held accountable for that. You've heard a lot of presentations on wit and wisdom, how tight we want to be. There's no more this conversation about tight and loose. Everything has to be tight. And you've seen with our school presentations under Be Legendary, Celebrating Success, that we're starting to see incremental growth in those areas of literacy and in those areas of math. So while I don't want to sound defensive, I just want to sound like these are really, really important positions for the school district to maintain our forward momentum.
Mr. Baumach, anything to add from a broad budget perspective, the budget realignment process, what things look like into the next school year? Anything to Dr. Hodak's question?
Yeah, Chair Berger, Board Member Hodak, and all board members, I think that the scrutiny is really important. I think at a time that we're at and possibility of future budgets, we have to be very thoughtful and actuate these decisions. The one question I thought I heard in what you asked was, how do we go from a list of different concepts to we're not really doing any reduction in force or measurable outside of 0.4 FTE? How are we possibly accomplishing those, or even the classified reduction in positions? I would say that's primarily been done through attrition and reassignment. And so if there's a position in the school district that's a part of the list, the commitment is that position will be sunsetted, that will go away. And the way that works is if it's filled by a person with an individual, is we're working with them hard to keep them in the district and give them another position. Well, it would seem as though, how can you give another position without adding? And that's due to the attrition. So people will make decisions each and every year to leave a school district, and you know that, but at a district our size, we welcome, at least in my few years, we've welcomed 60 to 100 new teachers every year. And so if there's a position that opens, we're trying to off-ramp those folks. And that doesn't just go for certified individuals, it's going with classified. I've been working closely personally on custodial positions and making sure that if there's somebody who is in our district and wants to remain in our district, that we can accomplish that, but we're still holding to the board agreement and directive on reducing that position that I speak of.
Anything else, Dr. Hodak? Other questions or comments from board members related to 6G, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education? Mr. Palmasino?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I strongly support both positions that we're looking at. And the reason I'm doing that is I had an opportunity to visit with Jody Thompson, who did do both positions by himself, and he is strongly opposed to having it combined. He strongly supports both positions because he felt that things were not done on a timely basis, and it was a lot of time on him. His family time was not there during that year, couple years that he was doing it. And I think in today's society, when we have parents that demand an answer now, not a week from today, that we need those positions so we can provide that service to the parents in our community. So that's why I support both positions.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from board members? Dr. Lund?
I support both positions too, and I think we have to realize these two resignations came in at the end of when we were finishing our budget realignment. But I've stated this multiple times before, every time we have a position that opens up, the first thing we should do is look at, do we need that position, or can we do it some other way? And I think we informally had done that during our board retreats with these positions. And I think it was pretty clear what we heard back from the rest of the leadership group below the superintendent levels is that these positions are vital. And I was on the board when Jody wore both hats, and not only could you not do a job and a half, you couldn't even do a job because you were doing 3/4 of one and 3/4 of another, and it didn't do anybody service. I support both these. I also, on a personal standpoint, I appreciate for us older board members that we keep with just one simple first name, because it makes it easier for us to remember, even if they're spelled differently. So,
Other comments, questions from board members? Ms. Flynn?
Well, it's been a little bit since we've done this, so I would maybe ask that we hear just even briefly from both of them, if that's appropriate. If not, that's okay too. But I'll have something to say, and then maybe we can, one we know and one we don't. I struggled a lot with this one because, I think the optics play a big role in what we do. But at the end of the day, I think it's really the role of the board to make long-term sustainable solutions rather than symbolic solutions or, optic solutions. I think those certainly come into play. But, the argument from maybe the standpoint of some of the teachers is valid, and it's important to understand and hear. I think the acknowledgement in what we've heard from teachers is, we are maybe being asked to do a little bit more with less. And, I can certainly acknowledge that. But then how I would look at maybe a symbolic cut to administration would be if we are going to, let's say, ask an administrator to quote unquote do more with less, or however we would want to phrase that. Does that symbolic decision improve classrooms? Does it decrease teacher burnout? Does it improve learning? Does it maintain accountability? And I think for me, not hiring both would be more of a symbolic cut rather than a sustainable solution. And I think the short-term potential savings would not be as great as hiring both and realizing a longer, more sustainable solution. I think if we do not hire both, there will be more of a trickle-down service. When you have a system in place that then is redone or pulled back, this decision is exactly why I fought so hard to not have fourth grade orchestra changed, because it's been in place for so long, and we're asking someone to take 6 weeks to figure it out, and then they go away in the summer, and then we're expected to have a program ready to go in the fall. And I feel like if we went from 2 to 1, we would be asking administration to do the same thing, and then everyone goes away for the summer and expects sort of the same level of care that they had last year with one less assistant superintendent. And I fear if we went down one, that there would be less support for teachers and principals. We would essentially weaken a system that we've created. I believe strongly that some of the issues we face in our district are less child problems and more adult problems. And because of that, I think the administrators help buffer the adult problems more so that then the teachers can really work on the children and their growth and learning. But I also want to acknowledge that if we move forward with hiring two in a budget time where we're straining and working effectively with the teachers in GFEA, I think it's important to understand that the board needs and has asked for clear role definitions, and that those roles are clearly defined, that we set performance expectations, that we hear frequently from both of those individuals like we do now, that they certainly have a seat at the table, and that there's regular review and accountability. I think now more than ever, if we're getting any feedback saying we can go from 2 to 1 or 1 to 2, that it's important that we say that the roles are going to be clearly defined and we're going to have accountability as well, both positive and negative, however that goes. So I think I would be happy to hear from both of them if they're willing to make a brief statement. I certainly know we're on one, not the other right now. But I think also skipping ahead just slightly on the agenda to Dr. Hodak's point about maybe some savings, there is another position that we haven't filled that other people have been doing. So there's been probably some realized savings there in the Director of Building and Grounds. And then potentially, if that position is approved, that position that's currently being filled by that individual may not be rehired. And so I think obviously there's some questions to be asked too, but it's hard to say we're on this one without talking about those other ones too, in the full financial picture. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from board members? Mr. Manley?
Amber mentioned GFEA, and that sparked something in my brain. I know most of us probably received emails from the past and the current president of GFEA, so I'll just throw this over to Joe, the GFEA rep here, if he has anything he'd like to include in this discussion or any comments or questions for us.
Not at this time. I know that you guys had received an email just kind of outlining our thoughts on the whole situation as well. Obviously not a voting member. This is your guys' decision one way or another. I think I'll just leave it at that for right now.
Anything else, Mr. Manley? No. Other questions, thoughts from board members? Dr. Hodak, and then we'll go to Mr. Clevin.
My last one thought on this is the fact is that I don't believe that we did a deep dive, and those are the words that I've heard, into the efficiency of our administrators. Replacing Matt and Catherine, I just can't believe it. It is such a loss for us to be losing both of them. But at the same time, we have asked teachers to do other positions and to be moved this way and that way and such. And so, and again, Mr. Triggs, I truly hope you understand this, but when I look at the elementary administrators that we have, from Thorfelson to Tannehill to Parkinson, I just really believe that we have other solutions than to be hiring both positions. So, and I will end with that.
Other questions or comments from board members? Mr. Clevin?
I think I'm somewhat disappointed because all of this was discussed at our budget meetings. We have collectively decided this is what we're doing, and I, for one, felt we did a deep dive. I came out of that budget meeting with absolute clarity on the necessity and importance of both of these positions, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about their qualifications to get to the topic at hand, which is enshrining their employment offers.
Thank you, Mr. Clevin. Any other questions or comments from board members? Well, we've heard a couple of calls for Mr. Triggs to offer a comment or two, so with his presence and his motion toward the podium, I think we're going to get exactly that.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank you for considering me for this role. As you can see, I have 23 years as an elementary principal, and I'll say this, that one of the things that I valued being in Fargo and being in Moorhead was the strong assistant soups that supported me and helped provide direction, but also helped me through difficult adult situations, and their support helped grow me. And it helped me to, as an elementary principal, helped me to grow leadership in the buildings I was at. And I mean, ultimately, it's what teachers are doing with students. And I see my role is supporting those strong principles. And I know this is a great system, so I am excited to join. But to support those principles so they can be effective with teachers and students and work through challenges and also take things off their plate that will help them to be better in their role. Because principal that's a large leveraging factor for school improvement. So, and I want to be a big part of that. I've got a lot of experience doing that. I said in my interview, I have 12 people that worked under me as teachers that are now either superintendents, principals, district leaders. And, I'm a servant leader. I have lots to learn, and I will learn along with our principals and our teachers. And 11 schools, I'll be busy, because part of my role is to be visible and so teachers know that we support and we value what they are doing in that classroom and find ways to help them become better. So I've done, as an elementary principal, and I've had experiences to allow me to be a superintendent, but really, what happens at that level, I've worked with such good assistant soups that this role is very, very important. And I am what we call a servant leader, and I'm humble. I have no problem admitting that I make a mistake, but I also have some experience that I think I can help and be part of this district, help it to get stronger. So.
Thank you, Mr. Triggs.
Yeah.
That's any other questions or comments from board members regarding 6G on our agenda tonight, the appointment of Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education? Dr. Lund?
I move that we approve the appointment of Mr. Triggs as the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education.
There's a motion on the floor from Dr. Lund that the Grand Forks Public School Board approve the appointment of Mr. Chris Triggs as Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education effective July 1, 2026 under the terms outlined above, including the compensation package, total compensation of $192,000 for the 2026-27 school year. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Clevin. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flynn? Yes. Hodak?
No.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6H, appointment of Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education. Dr. Brenner?
The memo is pretty much a repeat from the first memo, so I'll just go down to the last paragraph, the last sentence on that first page of the memo. Following the interviewing process, the team reached a unified recommendation in support of Dr. Christopher Arison for the position of Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education. Now we'll go to the backside. As an internal candidate, Dr. Arison brings intimate knowledge of Grand Forks Public Schools and District 140, the Grand Forks Air Force Base, including a deep understanding of our systems, culture, and ongoing initiatives. His longstanding service with the district ensures a seamless transition in this role, allowing for immediate continuity and leadership and support for our secondary schools. From a professional perspective, I've had the opportunity to work closely with Dr. Arison through his tenure as associate principal at Central High School and now as principal at Red River High School. Through his work, I've witnessed firsthand his ability to approach complex and often difficult challenges with thoughtfulness, resolve, and a clear focus on doing what's best for students. Subsequent to the interviews, I conducted reference checks for Dr. Arison. The feedback was highly positive and reaffirmed his strong leadership presence, relational capacity, and unwavering commitment to student learning and staff support. Based on the strength of the interview process, the collective recommendation of the interview team, his proven track record within the school district, and the highly affirming reference checks, it's my privilege to recommend the appointment of Dr. Christopher Arison as Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education effective July 1, 2026. The proposed compensation package includes a base salary of $189,000, along with an education factor of $5,000 for a total annual compensation of $194,000. You can see the recommendation down below. Thank you.
Questions or clarifying comments from board members? Ms. Flynn?
Could we hear from Mr. Arison?
Let's just see if we have any other questions from board members, comments from board members. Dr. Arison, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Board. This is truly an honor, a very humbling time for me. As Dr. Brenner said, I've been in the district 28 years. I've served as a teacher, a coach, associate principal, and now principal at Red River for the last 15 years. And I'm just really excited for this opportunity. Grand Forks Schools means a great deal to me. Both my wife and I have been in this district, like I say, my wife for 30 years and now me for 28. All three of my kids have gone through this school district and have had amazing experiences. And I'm just really excited for the opportunity. I feel I can step in. I'm filling big shoes. Catherine has been an outstanding assistant superintendent and been a great role model and mentor for me. I've learned a lot from her, and I think that'll help me move into this position. I know Mr. Triggs talked about a servant leader, and I think that really defines what an assistant superintendent needs to be. We need to be there for our building leaders. We need to support them. We need to walk alongside them. We need to help them. We need to ensure that they have the resources that they need to do their jobs at the building level. We need to work alongside our teachers and be there for them, and I think that's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm excited to have the possibility to work with all the amazing secondary principals that we have in our district. And really coming into this position, I think being internal is a benefit. There's a lot of things going on in Grand Forks schools, a lot of really great things in our secondary and middle schools. And I'm looking forward to working alongside those guys and really taking what we have and refining it and continuing to do the work that Catherine has started and continue to build on that and make it even better. So I'm just really excited for the opportunity and the support of Dr. Brenner and the rest of the people in our school district. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arison. Other questions or comments from board members? Mr. Clevin?
Just comment, there's a void left at Red River with this appointment. Having seen the transition in that building from principal to Dr. Arison, he's been great. And there's big shoes, literally and figuratively. I've seen your shoes to fill, but that's just the consequence of good people elevating to a different job. And I look forward to how we solve that problem next.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, I would seek a motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Christopher Arison as Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education effective July 1, 2026, under the terms outlined in the packet, including base salary of $189,000, education factor of $5,000 for a total annual compensation of $194,000.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Palmasino. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Manley. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Take just a moment before we move on to 6I and congratulate both of you. Looking forward to working with you, and our students and staff will benefit from your collective presence. So thank you and congratulations to both of you. I'm not sure what will be done at a later time, but to Dr. Hodek's point about the work that Dr. Galach and Mr. Bakke have done, you have been an absolute joy to work with and a collective benefit to our district. I'm sure there are lots of people who will say lots of things at lots of different places along the way between now and your last day in the district, but I just want to publicly thank you both for your work and for your commitment to our students, to public education. Your advocacy does not go unnoticed. The hours are long, and we appreciate the work that you have put in. So thank you both very much. We'll move on to 6I, appointment of Director of Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Baumbach.
Thank you, Chair Berger, members of the board. I too have a presentation of somebody I'm very pleased to make. Ms. Daly Wilkinson has been serving in our district here as our safety and security manager, and as an internal hire comes with all of the familiarity you would expect. In her 2-year or almost 3 years within the school district, she's really demonstrated a great sense of leadership. I would underscore among all other qualities. She has been visible and within buildings, and I don't meet a person who doesn't say good things about Daly Wilkinson. And if you also know her, she can be tough too. As a little bit of her background and history, working in law enforcement, she can really hold her own. And I think combined, that's going to continue to prove as a very strong leader. I note just a few of those skill sets. When we went through our interview process, first and foremost, I want to highlight our committee and say thank you. We had one external person spending some time on our committee, and that's Chris Arnold with Altru Health Systems. Chris used to serve in the role as B&G director. You're all familiar with that, but what you might not be familiar is still today, if you ask anybody about his name, he's often held up as an incredible director and almost a unicorn of when he served. And so having him a part of our committee was really great. Eric Holm as our maintenance supervisor for the past probably 14 years was wonderful. Corey, head custodian of Kelly, had come and served on our committee as well, an important voice. Dr. Arison, you just heard from, served. Amber Baselines, the associate principal at Valley Middle School. Ellie Parkinson, we got the elementary perspective. Dr. Dietrich, as it relates to special education, a very important perspective. And myself, we served on that. We did have 19 paper applications come through on the outset. We had invited 6 to interview, and ultimately did interview 4. We had 2 internal, 2 external that sat through those interviews. And a lot of really thoughtful conversation I would just highlight in that entire perspective. Daly doesn't come with some of the most traditional background you would expect from your buildings and grounds director. But from what I highlighted before, very comfortable with that. The whole committee is comfortable with the recommendation moving forward, but I want to also highlight her tenacity to learn the job and learn from it. She's poured into credentials and understanding of systems that haven't been in her traditional training related to facility management, and has been pursuing a professional credit to that end for nearing a year. There's a lot to be said about Daly, and even maybe more conversation about the position she vacates as well. But the committee recommendation outlined in the memo here is to hire Ms. Daly Wilkinson to the B&G director role on a 260-day contract starting at step 0 with an annual base salary of $110,082, effective as soon as May 1, with the internal candidacy and the ability to put her in that role ahead of our construction season. We're recommending a start just as soon as we can.
Thank you. Questions from board members for Mr. Baumbach? Dr. Lund?
Just a quick comment question. Having been on Finance Committee and working with Daly pretty extensively with all the different construction things that are going on, she's been a joy to work with, and it's clear that she knows her stuff, and if she doesn't know it 100%, she goes out and learns it so that she comes back and she knows it 150%. So I strongly support this. One question is will we be replacing her position as she vacates that, or will that be molded together? I think you might have mentioned it, but I didn't quite catch it.
It's board members, it's an important question, and we did not want to get ahead of our hiring committee to stay focused on if this is the right choice, nor the board and their decision. So we haven't completely tackled that question. I would say as of right now, we will not immediately post that position. There'll need to be exactly that review process we've talked about.
Other questions? Mr. Clevin?
You referenced a 260-day contract. Is that standard, or is there something unique to this?
No, Board Member Clevin, that's the extent of the B&G director contract. That's the working days within the calendar year, and yeah, the same as prior.
Yep, Dr. Lund?
Just clarification, that's a director position, so they're in the director's agreement, 2-year agreements.
Other questions from board members? Ms. Flynn, and then we'll go back to Mr. Clevin.
I would just say to echo Dr. Lund's comments, I think this position has been, certainly we've had a lot of building projects going on and have come to the culmination of a lot of those, but the work doesn't stop. And I think this is a really prime example of an individual who stepped up to fill a gap and who pulled up the bootstraps and said, I'm going to be a team player and work really hard. And when Daly has come to the finance meetings to explain to us some things, the comments have been concise and on point and factual. And I've appreciated the level of personable nature, but also this is just how it is. She can also hit a mean softball. I've seen her hit one of those. So I think I'm just proud that we have people in our district who rise to the occasion. I think this will be a great hire.
I would echo those comments. I know some in the public, the perception might be, well, the Career Impact Academy is up and running and the New Valley Middle School is up and running. And so, what is the sense here and now? But Daly's been so involved with the pre-K through 8th grade school project out in the Air Force Base. We have safety and security upgrades that continue to happen throughout our district. And so, again, to Ms. Flynn's point, in our meetings, particularly around the Twining build and out on the Air Force Base, she's been an invaluable member of those conversations and has simply done the work because the work was there in the absence of others. It's just so much appreciated, all of her efforts and her presence and the commitment to doing what it takes to keep a project moving. So exciting to see that groundbreaking coming just around the corner, and excited to see what's next. Dr. Brenner?
And it hasn't been underscored or highlighted, but in the absence of Jonathan Elwine, who left in October, there's been a savings of just about $100,000 with the salary and benefits. But more importantly, Brandon Bombach and Daly Wilkinson and Eric Holm, all three of them have tri-led the B&G department, so a step hasn't been missed at all. So it's been, to Dr. Hodek's earlier point, there's been excessive workload put on three individuals to make sure that safety and security is still happening, and our E3s are still, going off at 12:18 a.m. and you're responding to those, and I'm hearing them at home as well, like everybody else who has that on their phone. So I just wanted to underscore that three people have really stepped up and have worked some long hours.
Other questions or comments from board members? Seeing, hearing none, I would seek a motion to hire Ms. Daly Wilkinson as the Buildings and Grounds Director for a 260-day contract at Step 0 with an annual base salary of $110,082 effective May 1st, 2026. It's been moved by Mr. Larson. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Clevin. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Lund?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Daly, no board member requested that you come to the microphone. I think it's, I'll just say it this way, I think it's because we've seen everything we've needed to see from October until now. So congratulations are in order, and welcome to this new role. Thank you. 6J, second reading and adoption of policy GDB graduation exercises. Dr. Brenner?
I believe that's Dr. Hodak.
Excuse me. Yes, I had that in my notes. I just read down one line. Dr. Hodak, and then Dr. Lund and I were also part of that review, but Dr. Hodak will lead with you.
Well, we discussed this at the last board meeting, had the approval of the first reading, and so that's what we need to do tonight, is to complete the second reading and adoption of policy GDB for graduation exercises as presented.
Thank you. Dr. Lund, anything to add from your point of view? So Dr. Lund has made a motion to complete the second reading and adoption of policy GDB graduation exercises as presented. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Manley. Any discussion from board members related to policy GDB? We'll take a roll call vote.
Hodak?
Yes.
Larson? Flynn?
Yes.
Palmesino?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley? Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. That completes section 6 of our agenda. Moving on to 7. 7A would be announcements. Are there any announcements? Seven B, board requests for future consideration. 7C, school board meeting norms. Mr. Larson, how did we do?
We did very well. Sorry. We did very well. We had a lot to say tonight, and I will relay the comments from Brandon about Chris Arnold, except I will change it from unicorn to horse's ass.
Mr. Larson, which school board norm has to do with being respectful at the board table and when visiting with the public?
That's the one.
And with that, we are adjourned.